Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Monday, December 16th. New high in the NASDAQ. S&P closed higher, Dow closed down. Actually, the Dow peaked out right around the time of the spike, that spike in fiscal flows in November, right at the end of November, where I said that that was gonna be the peak in the flows for this cycle, and I was saying we were going to have a correction, and it is, man, it is showing up in the Dow. The S&P has not made a new record high. NASDAQ has, and I think there's a lot of artificial AI momentum and the Bitcoin stuff going on in some of these stocks like Palantir and MicroStrategy and stuff like that. But it does look like that was the peak in the flows for this cycle, as I said, and they're starting to edge back down slowly. I mean, they're still very, very strong, but they're starting to edge back down slowly. So Wednesday, we have the Fed, and it's going to cut rates by 25 basis points, and then it's going to say that it's going to hold right here. So I don't know how the monetarists are going to react. Maybe they're going to see that as, you know how they are. It's a psychosis. I've said I don't pay any attention to Fed meetings. I look at, the overall policy trend, like what are they doing and what are the implications of that. They're in a cutting mode. Even if now they pause, I believe next year we'll see more rate cuts. And the rate cuts, as I've told you, they equate to a reduction in interest income transfers into the economy. And we're seeing that at least in the T-bill interest. We're not seeing it in the overall amount of interest. It's up slightly over last year, like $5.5 billion, not a lot. But the T-bill interest is declining, and I expect that to continue, and at some point it will offset or wipe out, what interest on Treasury securities is adding. It's just this process is slow. The Fed is going incrementally. You're still having a lot of Treasury securities that are maturing. The longer dated ones are maturing now, and they're being rolled over with a higher coupon, a higher interest rate. Remember, a lot of those securities were sold back when rates were down at zero, and you had long bond rates, in the 2% level. So, I mean, they're rolling over now with the higher coupon, and so that's still a net positive flow. All right, let me, and by the way, all this very strong fiscal flow situation, that's just going to keep risk assets supported. So if you get a pullback here based on that we saw the peak in, the spike in flows at the end of November, if you get a pullback here, that's still going to be a buying opportunity. And it'd be a nice buying opportunity if you get a pullback here. Next year, a lot of unknowns. I mean, Trump wants to do tax cuts. You have the Doge thing with Elon and Ramaswamy. There's a lot of talk now, more than I've seen in a very long time, maybe the most ever, about the debt and the deficit. Like I've been saying in these videos, it seems to me like that whole thing is reaching some kind of a crescendo. And of course, it's all based on a fundamental, deep lack of understanding of what the debt is. But that's gonna maybe effectuate into some kind of policy to deal with that. The other thing we have is the National Bitcoin Reserve, which Trump wants to create, and that's like a super wild card. I mean, if that happens. That's a game changer, I'm telling you. Something we really have to pay attention to. The other thing I want to talk about, I'm not going to make a long video today, but the other thing I want to talk about is that I often get asked the question, Mike, can you give us an example of a country that uses MMT? And my answer to that is that's an illogical question because MMT is not a policy. MMT is a description of how monetary systems work. Okay? So, like, you use MMT to understand monetary systems, and it could be anything. It could be like the system we have with sovereign currency issuing government. Some people say fiat currency. You could have a system where there's a gold standard. You could have a system where spending and borrowing is done in a foreign currency. You could have a system where there's fixed exchange rates. Any of those systems, MMT is capable of analyzing it. It's like the analogy that I've used is that physics is an understanding of matter and the forces in the universe. We don't say, can you give me an example of where physics is used? Physics can explain things, okay? It's a body of understanding. And that's exactly what MMT is. It's a body of understanding. It's not a policy. People get this confused. They're like, we've seen this so many times in these stupid, ridiculous articles where they say, oh, they used MMT and look at what's happening. Nobody used MMT. MMT is an understanding of how the monetary system works. That's it. It's like you use physics to understand gravity, or you use physics to understand, force in engineering or whatever. I mean, it's a body of understanding. So when people ask me that question, I'm like, I can't answer that question because that's an illogical question. You're coming at me with a question that's fundamentally flawed. It means you don't understand, because if you're saying, give me an example of a country that uses MMT, then right away you expose yourself as thinking that MMT is some kind of a policy. It is not a policy. All right? It's just an understanding of how monetary systems work. Like I said, it could be a gold standard, it could be fiat currency, it could be fixed exchange rates, it could be whatever. MMT is the lens by which we understand how that monetary system works. So like when there's various different inputs, you could have within a system, you might have, fiscal policy decisions that are made. You might have monetary policy decisions that are made. You might have trade policy decisions that are made. You may have employment or job policies. Then we use MMT to figure out what the outcome is going to be. Okay? We don't do MMT. We use MMT as an understanding, as a way to understand how these systems work. All right, so you gotta get that straight in your head. I mean, when you're asking me these questions like, give me an example of a country that uses MMT, that's an illogical question. Like I said, it's like asking a question like, give me an example of physics, of where physics is being applied. I mean, physics is just the understanding of forces, of matter. It goes from everything from the subatomic, quantum mechanics, all the way to the macro, the universe. I mean, so you got to get that right. You got to start off, to understand something, you got to begin with the basics. And that also comes from just the language that you use. Like, you got to express it correctly. You don't say, give me an example of a country that uses MMT. You say, how would MMT explain such and such a thing? How would MMT explain, for example, the Trump tariffs? How would MMT explain China devaluing its currency? What effect would that have on its economy based on our understanding of China's economy, the way it's structured? MMT will give you that answer. All right? So that's all I have to say about that. I mean, try to be more concise when and I don't knock anybody for wanting to understand or wanting to be more informed. That's a good thing. Okay? I encourage that. But you got to start off by asking the right questions. All right? The better question would be, can you explain what MMT is? Not give me an example of a country that uses MMT. There's no such thing. That's, it's an inapplicable question. Anyway, that's it for today. Please like and subscribe. And don't forget, go to my website, pitbulleconomics.com. Sign up for a 30-day free trial to MMT Trader. Wednesday, rate cut. The monetarist zombies are going to go crazy one way or another. And I don't pay attention. I step back. I have some perspective. I have the MMT understanding. What does that mean? See, there's another good example. What does it mean when they're cutting interest rates? Just like I told you guys, if you've been around following me, going all the way back to 2022, when everybody was panicking over the rate increases and the Fed reducing their balance sheet, I said that was an unjustified, fear and concern, and that the market was going to make an all-time record high, and actually the rate increases were going to lead to massive increases in interest income transfers into the economy. That's exactly what happened. And it's not like I had some crystal ball. MMT explained that that was going to be the outcome. The only difference between me and these MMT academics out there is I have taken it to an applied form. I've taken the theory and I've said, okay, guys, here's what you do with that. Here's how you can use that understanding to invest and profit and make money. I don't want to get into this discussion again today because I did it yesterday about how a lot of you people, you just want to whine and complain about your situation instead of being informed, instead of taking advantage. Like I said yesterday, I don't care if there's inflation. I don't care if there's deflation. I don't care if there's tariffs. I just don't care, because it's not that I really don't care. It's just I know what to do with that situation. And I don't sit there oh no, what's going to happen? Poor me, what's going to happen to me? I don't have $400 billion and happen to be the right-hand man to Trump right now, like Elon. I don't care. I could take care of myself because I have knowledge. Actually, when it comes to economics, I have way, way, way more knowledge than Elon Musk. He might be better at engineering and at robotics and at raising money for his projects. That's fantastic. I mean, it's great having a guy like him. He's a very innovative and amazing person. Rockets, everything else. I got stuff he doesn't have, okay? Maybe these too. All right? All right, that's it for today. Oh, by the way, I went to the range today. I had a very cool experience. The guy shooting next to me, he had a World War II era M1 carbine, and he let me shoot it, and it was really cool. All right, don't forget, like and subscribe. See you tomorrow. Bye.